All right, welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Wednesday, November the 27th, 2024. A Wednesday that feels like a Friday for a lot of Americans, unless you already started your Thanksgiving holiday. And to help celebrate the day, today is National Bavarian Cream Pie Day. Yes, sir. Once again, AAA says this will be the busiest Thanksgiving holiday weekend for travel ever, with more than 79 million people expected to go somewhere more than 50 miles from their home by plane, train, or automobile. Seems like every year is the busiest year ever. First, the biggest story that you won't hear much about today is the fact that 60 electronic warfare specialists have been deployed to protect U.S. British air bases from possible Russian drone attacks. The highly trained troops were sent out to several top-secret locations after Russian drone sightings on Monday. They've been ordered to intercept any unmanned aerial vehicles posing a threat to aircraft or to military personnel at those bases, and to preserve operational security. The deployment comes after Vladimir Putin vowed that British and U.S. military facilities were now valid targets for Kremlin attacks after Ukraine fired U.S. and U.K. missiles into Russia for the first time. Now for the Thanksgiving rush, if you are headed to the airport, specifically Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta or Dallas-Fort Worth, both airports, as well as New Mexico and Nevada and some others, report organized groups of thieves stealing cars from airport parking lots. In Dallas, $5 million worth of cars have been stolen from DFW. Police have attributed it to Cuban and or Mexican gangs. They aren't sure if it's the same group that is hitting the other airports as well as DFW, and they did not say specifically if the gang members were in the country illegally or not, but did say that many of the vehicles stolen from Dallas and Houston were taken back to Mexico. Let's start it off with the border, immigration, and Newsmax host Carl Higbie.
The liberal policies, they're not only incentivizing migrants to come, but gangs, too. We told you the other day about this one. Tren de Aragua considering moving their headquarters to Denver. I mean, can you imagine that? Hola, Sotheby's. I'd like to put our dangerous gang headquarters somewhere. I hear Denver mayor is willing to go to jail for us. Let's move some property there. Have any warehouse space for our fentanyl operation? Yeah, $40 a square foot? We'll take it. I mean, it sounds funny, but that's exactly what's happening. Denver, on their own webpage, newcomer and migrant support page. Are you kidding me? They're practically giving stuff away. It's like leaving honey out and wondering why the bears are coming. I mean, funny enough, the same state of Colorado has signs all over all of their parks and on their website. There's don't feed the bears because they'll become dependent on a system. Hello? People are... It's unbelievable. You wonder why Trump... What? This is why... Because you have moms who had to listen to an audio tape at the trial of their daughter fighting off her killer for 18 minutes. Illegal immigrant. Because crime is spiking everywhere these migrants are coming to. Because 300,000 kids completely unaccounted for. Because the same party screaming and fake crying about children being separated at detention facilities, for their own safety, by the way. Yeah, that party's policy just lost, can't find and can't account for 300,000 children. You got a 2-year-old, an unaccompanied 2-year-old, just strolling around, coming across the board. My 2-year-old can't even go get the mail without me being worried about him that something's going to go wrong. And yet, this 2-year-old, no parents, no guardians, nothing, just wandering out by the border in the desert. These are the conditions that bad border policies have created. They aren't helping anyone. They're endangering those who are coming here and screwing over actual American citizens because they're overrunning our services, like in Ohio, man. These people, they're eating like geese out of the pond. They're not conforming to our laws and customs. Many of them don't even speak English. Oh, Carl, but they're coming here for a better life. Maybe. But it shouldn't be at the taxpayer's expense. And most of the money they're making here is being sent back to their relatives overseas anyway. Don't give me that asylum garbage either. 99% of these people are not asylum seekers. They may have checked that on the little app that they were told to use, but the asylum is for people who are actively being pursued and worried about their life, limb, or safety. That's 99% of these people are not that. And while we're dumping billions into this, We have American citizens freezing in North Carolina because there's no money in FEMA to house them after the hurricane destroyed their home because they gave it all to illegal immigrants. Look, I'm fine helping people. I encourage charity, but there needs to be a priority chart, especially for our government. Illegal immigrants are at like the bottom of that as far as I'm concerned. And sorry, not sorry. New York is spending hundreds of millions to house these people in hotels, jacking up the rates citywide for the rest of us. How about every homeless veteran gets put up, gets a home, gets the health care they earned before you spend another penny on someone who broke the law to get here? How about you fix every road, every bridge, every tunnel first? How about you stop printing money to do this so our inflation actually goes down? Make sure that children of taxpayers aren't being forced out of schools by people who shouldn't be there. I can go on, and some lib is going to call me a bigot for that. I'm so done. I don't even care anymore. I don't think I'm alone in this either. I just am willing to say it out loud. I am done watching Americans die and be pushed into secondary priority status while we foot the bill for people who have no respect for our custom laws and process. I'm talking about illegal immigrants, not legal ones too, for any liberals watching. That was the mandate the American people just handed to Washington, too.
Carl Higbie, former Navy SEAL, is the host of Frontline, 5 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. And like he said, I'm pretty sure he is not alone on that. Vice President Kamala Harris, the border czar in name only, who has been vacationing in Hawaii since losing the election, resurfaced yesterday with a message to her supporters that everyone is talking about.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
This completely blew up on social media, everybody talking about it last night and still today. Not so much because of what she said, but how she said it and how she looked. Let's just say she didn't look refreshed. She didn't look like she had been resting in Hawaii. She didn't look well rested. And a Democrat mega donor who lives here in Orlando, a guy named John Morgan, of the Morgan & Morgan law firm, also delivered a message yesterday.
$900,000 to put her face on the Sphere in Las Vegas. In the Sphere, the ego, the crazy, the commissions. I was at the White House for a dinner Friday night, talking to a lot of people, and I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of whispering. There's a lot of names about who got paid this, who got paid that, and a lot of people got rich on the back of donors trying to stop Trump. And I think this disqualifies her forever. If you can't run a campaign, you can't run America. And that would be the argument just day one.
That's from an interview on News Nation. And did you catch it? He said, from donors trying to stop Trump. He didn't say Kamala Harris supporters. Mr. Morgan, who I'm very familiar with from living in Orlando, confirmed exactly what I was saying throughout the entire Kamala Harris run.
It wasn't pouring in for Harris. It was pouring in against Trump. Everybody that was voting and supporting Harris was really voting against Trump.
Democrat mega donor John Morgan. All the money pouring in wasn't really for Harris. It was money against Trump. When everyone was surprised over the support that Harris was getting, I said it could be Mickey Mouse running, keeping with the Florida theme. It doesn't matter. It could be anyone as long as it's not Trump. Did I or did I not say that? 1,000 times. Harris is reportedly considering a run for governor of California as well as possibly running for president again. Newsmax's national report spoke with Democrat strategist Theron Bond and Republican strategist Luke Ball.
Theron, we'll start with you. Is this a good idea for VP Harris to continue her political ambitions?
Not to run for president again in 2028. Please don't. I can't really speak for governor of California. Californians seem to support her significantly. We haven't yet been able to measure what that support looks like after this current run she just had. That may be the only thing that I guess, may make sense for her to consider. But another shot at the presidency, I hope she doesn't. And if she is relying on those same advisors that advised her this cycle, that's not who I would listen to.
Luke, I mean, she lost in a landslide to Trump in this election. If she runs for governor of California, can she win that race?
Well, I think she might have a hand up in California because I think that's one of the only states where she might actually have an edge. She'd have high name ID. But if she ran anywhere else in the country, I don't think she'd be able to get elected to dog catcher, unfortunately, because if I'm a donor, if I'm a Democrat, I'm looking at this race and I'm looking at the aftermath as we start to go through the autopsy of the campaign. And I'm seeing that we're paying millions of dollars to celebrities to astroturf the campaign instead of spending that money on critical resources, even like the DNC. If I'm on that side of the political aisle, I'm wondering why can't we give that to staff members as opposed to sending it to celebrities, paying $5,000 for having their nails done. Like the RNC went through this just over a year ago, and we cleaned house ahead of the election. And I think that if I'm a Democrat strategist and I'm operating within the DNC, I'm having the same thought process. We have to have a come to Jesus meeting and figure out, number one, who the heck is the leader of our party? Number two, what sort of drastic changes are we going to make to position ourselves to come up in this next upcoming midterm election and start to change the direction of the country from our perspective? So I don't think Kamala Harris is going to have a shot at a national campaign anymore. Maybe she'd be able to find a home in California, but I think her national political spotlight is fading.
Well, speaking of those DNC staffers, apparently they're not so happy because now they no longer have a job. Some facing layoffs, no severance pay, and there's a GoFundMe that has been set up. It reads in part, last week, 2/3 of the DNC staff was laid off with little notice and no severance. We're heartbroken to see our colleagues who dedicated countless hours to electing Democrats up and down the ballot depart under these circumstances. Furious with DNC leadership for failing to provide severance to those affected. As of now, of their $25,000 goal, they've raised $16,000. Darren, will you be donating to this campaign? I mean, should we be feeling sorry for these staffers whose candidate lost an election and are no longer getting paid?
You know, there's pros and cons to that because we don't have a clear picture of exactly what they knew going into it. We don't know what they were promised or what terms they agreed to. So if there were terms that they agreed to that have not been met, then yes, it makes sense to donate to that. But if that was not the case, and if they were some of those people that were advising and making decisions that led to this significant loss, then we have to reevaluate the entire DNC structure and what affinity those staffers have to the people versus the party itself. And when those people will be bold enough to say, you know what, something's not going right, and be heard. But as we hear more and more stories leaking out about what being a staffer was like, there were a lot of maybe lower level staffers that weren't listened to when they tried to stop this disaster of a train that was going. And so it's sad to see anybody that needs a GoFundMe, but we'd have to really know what those terms were that they agreed to, and if they were in fact met and they're just unhappy, or if they weren't met and they're being hanging left to dry.
Democratic strategist Theron Bond on Newsmax. Yesterday, I talked about special counsel Jack Smith moving to dismiss the 2 federal cases against Donald Trump, right? Reaction to that story, of course, continued throughout the day. Bianca De La Garza spoke about it with Victor Davis Hanson.
Hoover Institute senior fellow, author of many best-selling books, including the latest one here, The End of Everything, How Wars Descend into Annihilation. Victor Davis Hanson, welcome back to Newsline, Victor. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
If we could start with the Lawfare. Yesterday, it was breaking on our show when Jack Smith filed this 6-page motion. Tanya Chutkan had to approve it and finalize it yesterday to drop all the J6 charges. You know, a lot of this from the left, they're saying, we heard Goldman saying, well, no one's above the law. Donald Trump is proving he's above the law. You know, Americans want accountability in some way, shape, or form. What do you think the DOJ under the new administration should be looking at when it comes in, seeing that more than $100 million was spent to prosecute Trump on a case that now in a moment goes away?
Well, first of all, I would like him to look at the asymmetrical treatment of Joe Biden. He had a special prosecutor. The special prosecutor found culpability. Then he fobbed it off by saying he would be too empathetic due to his dementia to a jury to be convicted. But Joe Biden took out documents longer in more unsecure places, and his ghostwriters, remember, had access to classified information and then destroyed that tape that was under subpoena. That was all let go. I think they should take a look at that. And then in addition, you know, in November of 2022, I think it was October, on one single day, Jack Smith was appointed. Nathan Wade went to the White House to coordinate the Fani Willis, Georgia indictment. And the number 3 person in Merrick Garland's Department of Justice, Mr. Coangelo, resigned, a very prestigious job, to go to work for Alvin Bragg. And I'd like to see that was all coordinated. And I think they need to go look and subpoena all of the emails, communications, and see to what degree Merrick Garland and the Joe Biden legal counsel were coordinating Letitia James, Fani Willis, Jack Smith, and Alvin Bragg.
Victor Davis Hanson on Newsmax. It was all coordinated against Trump, and there needs to be investigations. Hanson echoing the sentiments of many, including Newsmax host Greg Kelly, who reminded viewers last night that the Biden document case is much worse than the Trump documents case.
President Trump, whatever he took with him, he was allowed to. He was absolutely allowed to. And remember, these documents staged on the floor of Mar-a-Lago by the FBI, they brought that stuff in with them. Go back to when those boxes left the White House on the morning of January 20th. The guy who from the archives is watching this on TV. I can remember watching the Trumps leaving the White House and saying to myself, what the hell's in that box? Talk about a system out to get President Trump. That began a whole process of trying to determine whether any records had not been turned over to the archives. If only they had been that diligent in trying to track down Joe Biden's stolen documents. Because the vice president isn't supposed to keep anything, all right? Not supposed to keep that stuff and store it in his garage, as he did, personally did. How about this? That old rickety box in the garage, right? I mean, does it look like Joe's chief of staff did that? No. Nobody did that except Joe. But he certainly said he did it, and the media repeated it.
Take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material.
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff. My staff
did it. My staff did it. It wasn't me, it was my staff. His lawyer went on television and said the same thing. Of course, vice presidents don't pack their own boxes. Everybody knows that, don't they?
He was saying staff was clearly involved, responsible for the packing. We don't see presidents and vice presidents during transitions packing boxes. But he recognizes now when he looks back on it, maybe more involvement on his part was necessary because it didn't go the way he thought it should have gone.
You lying sack. Unbelievable. Merrick Garland's own investigator, a guy named Robert Hur, determined it wasn't the staff. It was Joe Biden himself. Joe packed the boxes himself as a sitting vice president of the United States. Yeah, you can tell. I mean, if you were working for Joe Biden, you weren't going to just throw him in some box and dump him in the garage. Here's the Robert Hur report, all right, in detail. They track it down to Joe. On January 7, 2017, the Bidens moved furniture and personal belongings out of the Naval Observatory, that's where he was living as vice president, and into the Virginia home using a private moving company, okay? The Bidens paid for the move themselves and packed their own belongings. Mr. Biden was personally involved in the move, very much so. One military aide recalled seeing him packing by himself and just him moving his stuff one at a time into the truck. They even found the invoice from the Georgetown Moving and Storage Company. And a little item on the receipt there, customer to pack all, carrier to pack none. The logical inference is that Joe was taking all kinds of classified documents with him. And he shared some of that classified information with his ghostwriter for that phony book he wrote.
That's Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports, who also brought back this clip of then presidential nominee Donald Trump.
We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
The prophecy has been fulfilled in a way, right? I mean, look, we have not yet savored, believe it or not, the election. Remember just what this is the most stupendous thing any of us have ever seen. After all this stuff, he wins. And yeah, peace is breaking out. Things are changing all over the world, internationally, enemies, friends, they're capitulating, they're giving in, they're following our agenda. For instance, this lady from the European Union, I believe, says she wants to buy American natural gas. She doesn't want Trump's tariffs. And it goes on like this. Next, please. Putin says he's going to sell Russian oil. Beautiful. Keep going. Oh, Zelensky, this guy he realizes the gravy train is over. Hamas is calling for peace. This is real stuff.
It's real stuff, and it's really good stuff. Greg Kelly Reports, 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. Yesterday, I also mentioned that Walmart, the nation's largest employer, was eliminating its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, DEI. More from Chris Plant and the Right Squad.
Walmart, the big giant Walmart, rolling back DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. The mega store announced it will no longer be following DEI policies and is not renewing a 5-year commitment for a racial equity center created in 2020 in the wake of the George Floyd riots from coast to coast. Walmart also says that it will be pulling out of a prominent gay rights index and won't be giving priority treatment when it comes to race or gender when they're deciding on their suppliers, their vendors that they do business with, right? Meanwhile, Jaguar, the British car manufacturer with all the electrical problems, their managing director there is doubling down on this woke ad after the backlash it received, which was epic, with people like Elon Musk asking, do you sell cars? Which is kind of a fun question after the ad. The Jaguar boss calling the response vile hatred and intolerance. So, Foldy, the English are different. They're kind of funny. But you see Walmart saying, you know what, we're going to pull the plug on this stuff, and we're not going to do the DEI, we're not doing the racial quotas, we're not doing the gender, the left-wing game, and the gay, getting the index from the Human Rights Campaign that gives you a score for companies and everybody else. I think we're seeing some early signs of enough of this already.
Mm-hmm. These are, of course, all protection rackets. And I think 2024, we've talked about how it was a referendum on the left and the media. I think it was also a referendum on this sort of overcorrection that we saw in the past several years that obviously came to a head under the Biden administration. And I'll make an offer to any company like Walmart. If you want to abandon and jettison your DEI policies, let me know. I'll write a story about it because I think this is important. And, it's sort of a game theory thing here. Walmart has completely dominated the news cycle. Republicans now control all 3 branches of government, and you have Republicans lavishing praise. Republicans, the people who control the country right now, are lavishing praise on Walmart. So more companies should follow this lead. It follows a trend we've seen from other companies. But this is, of course, a juggernaut. And one reaction, I think, that sort of typifies this that I've seen from Congress as I'm working on a story about this is from Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who said that this is a great rejection of DEI, and the replacement of that is and should be merit. And I hope that that's what we see follow through with this.
Well, actually, since you mentioned that, now I have to go here because meanwhile, some colleges, and we just sort of touched on that, some colleges are dumping DEI too. The University of Austin in Texas is swapping DEI for MEI. They call it MEI, which stands for Merit, Excellence, and Intelligence.
MEI. Have you heard of that? Merit, excellence, and intelligence, replacing DEI. And I'm pretty sure Chris meant the University of Texas at Austin, commonly known as UT Austin, home of the Longhorns. That's good stuff. On Wall Street, stocks were flat at the open this morning as investors await the personal consumption expenditures report. The expectation was for 2.8%. It's a report that the feds will be looking at very closely as they weigh the timing of another interest rate cut. It's one of the many reports on inflation that the feds pay attention to. Again, the expectation was 2.8%. So if the market is down, when you're hearing this, could be because it was a lot higher than that. And after more than 150 years, the Campbell Soup Company is removing Soup Company as part of its official name, the Campbell Soup Company. It will now be known simply as Campbell's, they say, in an effort to identify with its larger portfolio of foods and not be limited to a soup company. Since no one really ever calls it the Campbell Soup Company, I have a suggestion. Campbell's people, if you're listening, change the name from Campbell's Soup Company to Campbell's Food Company. And then people will know that you actually make other food. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day and throughout the Thanksgiving holiday weekend on Newsmax, Newsmax 2, and Newsmax.com. Beginning each and every day with Wake Up America and then Wake Up America Weekend Edition, American Agenda, Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbie Frontline, Bianca De La Garza on Newsline, Rob Schmidt, Finnerty, Chris Salcedo, Ed Henry, John Bachman, and much more, with fantastic analysis from people like political analyst Mark Halpern, Governor Mike Huckabee, Senator Santorum, Judge Napolitano. I'm Tony Marino. This is the Newsmax Daily. Thank you, as always, for listening. Continue to share it with your friends and family and anyone else. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday. Don't talk politics, okay? Just enjoy the food and the football. Let's go Miami! And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is news.